Check, 1, 2.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Hey, thanks a lot for showing up for show number 9. I got 9 under my belt. Well, this one's not quite under the belt yet, but we'll see. I'm ready to pull the plug on JL at any moment, so it could go either way. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, guys, just want to tell you up front that we have some storms in the area. I think we're going to make it, though, through the show, but just in case something just magically disappears, that's the reason. No other reason. Yeah, I dressed up for JL tonight. I got my new shirt my wife bought me. I have my Bermuda pants, my Bermuda shorts, and I look a wreck from the waist down. But other than that, life is good. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time chatting with you guys. I'm going to bring JL in because JL gave me a list. Thank you, JL. I appreciate that. Everybody out there hear me? Okay. No hat tonight, try. It's really warm down here. I got the air off. I'm trying to save some money. And it's a sweltering, it's a sauna down here. So my levels seem a little low, but I'm just going to ask you guys out there, everything cool out there? I don't want to crank it too much because, it happens. You guys all know jlgerk from iCompositions. He is one of the red guys. And what is one of the red guys? That means he's an administrator. He has been there from the beginning. And he helps bring a wonderful website to this community. And we all appreciate him for that. And we're going to get to know a little bit about JL, some of his upbringing, some of the people he's met along the way, which is a fascinating list, guys. And, we're just going to get to know him. And we're going to, you guys are welcome to ask him some questions out there. I am going to try to keep up with the chat, and I'm not as experienced as JL is with that, so we will see. So I am not going to yammer any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. jlgerk. To the stage. Clap, 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 clap.
Hello, my iComp family friends.
Yeah, it's amazing that you say that, because, this damn Skype keeps popping up with, I got a lot of background noises, but it's amazing that you say that, because with the pictures we've been watching this whole past hour and a half, really shows off that you are quite the family man, and you got a beautiful family. And
yeah, thanks. They're wonderful.
Yeah, I can tell by just by the look in your eye and just all that good stuff out there. They're wonderful
that was
pictures.
Just earbuds.
Well, okay. Well, let's work on that beer buzz. It's early. We can go. We're doing it now.
I am.
That's good. Yeah, I have my cocktail for the evening as well. One thing I want to point out to you guys out there in the chat, that we are going to take intermittent or unannounced, unscripted smoke breaks. So this show might be called Unscripted Smoke Breaks tonight. I didn't get any videos to play in between, so I'll just banter while you take off. But we're going to let JL take off whenever he damn feels like it, because he can. And that's all there is to it.
That's good. Okay, I'm out of here.
That's all right. Well, hey, JL, well, looks, your list you gave me. Ah, shit. Oh, I did hit record. Sorry. Disregard that last French.
As a matter of fact, hold on. I want to record this also.
Oh, do you really? Oh,
Yeah, well, at least the audio.
we got dueling recordings. Awesome. It's a first on iCNick at night, guys. Um, let's start off at first. In 1951, it says here you had your bar mitzvah.
No. That's
1951.
when I joined IC.
That's when you joined IC.
You guys didn't know it, but let's see, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 53 years later, I was going to start a website. Nobody knew it.
Wow. I didn't realize that iComps has been around that long.
Yeah. We didn't go public till 2004, though.
Really? You know what? I have no idea what I'm doing here, JL. You got me all nervous, man.
Oh, just chill out, man. It's just 10,000 people watching. Don't worry.
I can't find the damn button. Oh well, who cares? Nobody wants to see me anyway. So I was going to try to do the picture-in-picture, but it just exploded on me there and had my face right on top of yours, and that's scary.
I'm going to have to come to your place and show you some things about broadcasting, buddy.
Exactly. Well, you're more than welcome to, but can you work your way around a PC?
No, I can't. Like I said, I've told before, the only time I've used a PC would be in a hotel lobby.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Here, I think I know what I'm doing now. Watch this. Click that.
Gotta shrink it, right?
There you go. Your head's
There you
too
go.
big. You got a big head. I need to move.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do have a big head.
I need to move out of the way there, and yeah, just so it
Yeah,
looks
right
like we're having dialogue.
Right over my guitar. There you go.
Yeah, well,
My guitars, all three of them.
So what have you been doing today? Just been hanging out, waiting for me?
Oh, babysitting most of the day. My granddaughter,
How old?
11 months.
11 months. Wow.
See, she comes over here. Her parents they don't dump her off. So they have to work and all that. So,
Right.
but over here, she's allowed to eat all the time and sleep a lot. So that's good for her and good for me. And,
So she's all
they bring her
wound
over
up.
and they say, well, she's just been really crabby. And 5 minutes with me and she's all calm and
Yeah. But then
she's just like my wife. I got to feed her and sleep her.
Yeah, then she's all wound up from sleeping all day, and they take her home, and she's like bouncing off the walls. That's awesome.
Yeah, give her lots of sugar stuff and yeah.
Well, I
That's what grandparents get to do.
Yeah, I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but it doesn't scare me. And I have a stepdaughter. My wife's daughter's 27, going on 28, just recently married. So thankfully, none of my kids have fathered or born children yet. But it doesn't scare me. And
I have 7.
You're what?
I have 7 grandchildren.
Wow.
But 3 of them are actually extended family. They're not actually mine, but they certainly are in our family, though.
Wow. So is she? Ruby wants to know: is the 11-month-old walking or getting up and moving around?
Yes, just started walking. Yes, not talking, making noises, not talking, but yes, she is. She's walking. She takes 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 10 steps, and then sits down and rests. And she does the butt up in the air crawling thing really good.
Yeah, that's when the trouble starts, when they start getting mobile. Then man, they're trouble. Well, hey JL, let's get into some of this stuff you got going on here. Man, you got some really neat stuff. I'm jealous of a lot of stuff here.
It's kind of like you were saying the other day. Somebody was saying how many name bombs did Tommy throw down? And I looked at my list. I said, well, damn, that's the same thing, I didn't do anything. I just met a bunch of people is all.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a few too, but I don't have quite the extensive list. But I went chasing after these people because I was one of those groupie guys that had to, I just forced them to say hi to me and stuff. So I have a list of some people. The
bottom line and a good place to start is where I was born. The Mid-Peninsula, right in between, right dead smack in between San Francisco and San Jose, which is basically the heart of what is now Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And before, right around Stanford University, and I mean, before there was the quote-unquote hippie San Francisco scene, that scene really started in Palo Alto.
Okay.
It really did, and then they all moved to the city, and then shortly after that they moved out of the city up into Marin. But that's where my young days were spent,
Cool.
in and around Menlo Park, Redwood City, Palo Alto, up in La Honda, the hills, and over on the beach. Everything was close, you know.
Yeah,
And
that's cool. I was looking through the list and the story you just said. Now I was thinking about something earlier, and I wanted to ask you this question, but I didn't want to get it too heavy about it. But you know, you just don't see that anymore. That type of that atmosphere back in them days. That you know, in California like that. You know, where has that gone? You don't. You know, your pictures. When you were, you know, hanging out with all your friends there in Hawaii, and you just don't hear about that. You don't see that anymore. And you know, why do you think that is?
I can't say, but part of that is when you get as old as I am. Hopefully, some people younger, whatever. You think back, you look back on the early days or whatever, and it seems like they went on forever. You know, like, oh, people would say, oh, I was at the beach every day for every summer forever. Well, that's a lie. That time you were talking about was only a couple of years, and you went to the beach 6 times in one summer. You know, if you really look back, it really was like, for me, the whole hippie era started in like 66, and by late 68, it was gone. It was over.
Really?
I remember distinctly one day, you know, going to the Haight after a show or something, and on hearing guns, we quickly turned around and left. You know, I mean, the party was over in just a few short years.
Wow. Yeah, well, you know, they don't really make it seem that way, though. They make it seem like it went on forever, and then, you know, they teach that in high school now. You know, that it was this era of a decade, basically.
No.
And it really wasn't, was it? It's kind of a here and there.
It's 2 tops. Paul Kantner said it good one time. Something about the summer of love or something like that. He says, "Yeah, I was groovy for about a week in the summer of '67, and that was it."
So it was a summer then. It's just
that's when. I mean, that's when the publicity got out, and when you hear the stories of everybody flocking to San Francisco, you know, that's what it was. But it was a bunch of homeless dirtbag kids just hanging out in the street doing dope, which was, I was one of them. What happened to live there, but.
Oh, cool. Yeah, exactly. You were there. I mean, you were born there. You were in the midst of it. So you think that maybe the next couple of years, 68, 69, was just people just trying to hang on to that.
Oh yeah, yeah. By that time, everybody that was the hip cats, they'd all left by then. For instance, our mecca was to leave. I mean, it was a law then, with everybody I knew, we had to go to Hawaii, and that started with the Brotherhood, the guys that grew good dope, and then and then a few years later, they all bailed and went back and started the Northern California Humboldt Dope Growing Association. You know.
Now it's in Canada, I think.
It's everywhere now,
they're
but
growing it for medicinal.
that's when that started. The Brotherhood. They went to Hawaii and other parts of the world.
Wow.
I knew a guy back in that time. He spent a special trip to Africa just to get some good seeds.
Really, that's dedication.
Yeah, you'll see that marijuana and LSD have permeated most of my life. You'll find that out here through this here.
well, yeah. I think you and I are probably going to end up with a lot in common then, because. I have a lot of stories to tell too. Someday, if I get interviewed somewhere, everybody cares to know. Now, well, let's go back then a little bit before we head off out of California. I mean, you have your dad here. Did you want to talk about that? You're in San Francisco. Doug Tower Records. Tell me about
well,
that.
when I was a kid, my cousin Doug, much older and dead now, he worked for Tower Records, which started in Sacramento, which is where he lived, which is 50, 80, 100 miles away from San Francisco. And he would, every Christmas, he'd come around and pass out records to all the teenagers and us younger ones too. And that's pretty much how my music just got mute button.
That's cool.
Besides, even younger than that, the little neighborhood I grew up in, there was a I was one of the young ones. All my life, I've hung out with older people. It seems like, but we had some girls that were much older, and when the bandstand started up, we'd hang. I think it was on every day at the time in the afternoon, and we'd actually go to this old lady's house. Well, she probably wasn't that old. She's probably as old as I am now, but at the time, it seemed like she was ancient. And all the neighborhood kids would hang out and watch a bandstand and so that's how that started. And anyway, to get these free records was just a thrill for us kids at Christmas time. And my dad worked at the newspaper in San Francisco his whole life. Wow. So I was, even as a young kid, really young, take the bus. We were only 20, 25 miles south of San Francisco. Take the bus up to the city, and I'd basically hang out in the city all by myself most of the day.
Wow, that's cool. That is real cool. I didn't have that growing up, but that would have been. I could see where your influence began in music and the way you're going right now. I lost my train of thought there, but
Woo.
What's that?
Woo woo.
Yeah, exactly. Moving. I mean, so what got you started? I mean, you were in Tower Records, so you hung out. So you're essentially, I'm going to assume here, correct me, but you were listening to all these different acts and all these people that you've met along the way. You just don't meet them without knowing them. So I'm assuming you were just kind of like a kid in a candy store playing around in the.
Well, that didn't start till. I mean, we just got the free records from my cousin, which was cool. But the hanging out and meeting people didn't start till I started taking guitar lessons. And I used to think that I started that before the Beatles, but I went back the other day and did some research, and it was the Beatles that spawned all this. I was in, I think, the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I got this cough that won't go away. Hold on here.
Yeah, I got it too. It's going around. I don't know. At least you're not sounding like a pig, so I think you're good.
So let's see. It was 64ish. That's when I started the 8th grade. Well, before let me preface that with I was going to a public school through the 5th grade, and my parents, being the good Catholics that they were, decided it was time to send me to a Catholic school so I wouldn't go astray. And believe me, things fell apart at that point.
I did the same thing.
I picked up all my bad habits from the Catholic boys at the school.
Yeah, me too.
But it was right. Well, I was interested in music, and then a friend of mine, good friend of mine, he said, "Let's go take some guitar lessons. Let's start a band." And his older brother was drumming, and it was, so we went to the local music store in Palo Alto, and we just signed up and took some lessons, and it happened to be Jerry Garcia who was teaching lessons there. So
Wow.
I got to sit around in a 2 days a week in basically a 4x4 room with the man.
Really?
And his older brother was taking lessons from Bill Kreutzmann, who was a drummer for they weren't the Dead yet. They haven't even barely were turned into the Warlocks at that point.
They were just a couple of weeks ahead of you, basically, getting a band together.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there was times like you say, "Well, hey, we're auditioning at this club," and so my dad would. Oh, I'm gonna have to edit these coughs.
Yeah.
Like one day, some Saturday afternoon, he said, "Come on down to this club," and they weren't even allowed to use the stage. They had to set up on the floor.
Wow. That is cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. Gee, Jiminy Christmas, how many people? I mean, Ben out there, Beth, said something wholly censored about Jerry. I mean, how many people on this planet could say they did that?
I know of a couple dozen. But,
yeah,
that's
that's a.
Well, he was from San Francisco, but like his parents had bought a ranch out in La Honda, which is up in the hills above Redwood City or Palo Alto, and he happened to be living. And then they moved to Redwood City, which is one town away for quite a while, the city where I was born, and then back to the city, and back to the Palo Alto scene, which was, and the reason it was the scene there, for instance, when you read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Ken Kesey, he was actually going to the VA hospital there in Menlo Park.
Wow.
Which is where acid started.
You think?
Really?
Well, thank God for that. Crying out loud.
Yeah.
That was good times. Hell, if I could get away with it, I'd do it again. But you didn't hear
Yeah,
that.
I remember one day we're sitting in the music store, and they were just hanging out. I think it was Bob and Phil and Jerry and me and my friend were in there. It was either before or after lessons, or just hanging out. I don't know. And we would just take records in there and say, "Hey, teach us this song, Jerry." And he couldn't figure out "Help" by the Beatles, so he says, "Hey, Phil, listen to this." And he plays the song "Help" by the Beatles, and Phil just right off the top of his head threw out, "Well, that's a this, and that's a this, and that's a that."
Wow.
So that's how we learned that song. And on top of that, they used to rehearse a lot. About 2 blocks away from me, I was friends with their first manager. Was Bob? I forget his name.
Werner?
No.
I'm thinking of somebody else.
It's unimportant. But anyway, we'd go to his house, and they'd be rehearsing there all the time, and we'd go watch that. And
wow. That's cool. I mean, that's beyond cool, Jay. I mean, it really is. That's amazing. I'd love to have seen some pictures of that, behind the scenes stuff like that. That'd been cool.
Well, if you take a look at him, his early pictures without a beard, I thought it was pretty ugly. He just had a really pocked face. It looked like he had, I don't know what diseases caused that, but just a really pocked up face.
Yeah, bad acne growing up.
Quite weird.
So, I mean, you moved on and you just kind of got into the scene there, and you were hanging out, and I'm going to rattle off some.
Yeah, well, with this friend and all that, at the same, just shortly after that, that was in 8th grade, and then moved on to high school, and the drummer, my friend's older brother, says, "Oh, I know this guitar player. We should bring him in. He's pretty good." This guy had never been in a band before, and it turns out it's Lindsey Buckingham, who's made famous with the Fleetwood Mac, as you all know. But he was just a jock.
Lindsey Buckingham?
Yeah. I went to high school. He was 2 years older than me.
Really?
Damn.
He's a great guitar player, though. I mean, I've always respected him as a guitar player. I wasn't a big Fleetwood Mac fan. When Rumors came out, I think I was in the 8th grade or something like that, or somewhere in that area, and I started digging him a little bit. But yeah, he's a pretty good guitar player for sure.
Yeah, well, from day one, he never played with the pick. He wasn't in the band too long. He moved on really quick because we were terrible. But I remember we were going to play at the father-daughter dance at school.
Gotta love the father-daughter dance. You got it.
And we rehearsed, and at the time we'd have to go rent PA stuff and rent microphones and all this stuff. And anyway, we learned these songs. I couldn't tell you what they were now. I totally forget. But and so we get to the dance, and we're set up and we're playing and go to this next song, and he had transposed it to a different key, and I had no idea how to transpose anything at the time. So I was lost. I just couldn't even play.
Yeah. Oh, I'm still that way, to be honest with you. I can play what I can play, but if I got to follow along, man, I look like a duck out of water, man. It sucks. Yeah. I've never really learned that. the theory and skill behind a lot of that stuff. So I know what you're saying is what I'm trying to say is I can only imagine. I noticed that Rich out there, he wanted to know if you guys ever made fun of Lindsey Buckingham, his name.
Well, he was really into water polo. He was from the rich side of town. I was from the poor side of town. So I never made fun of him, but no, it was strange at the time. But there was a lot of strange names.
Huh. I don't know.
Oh, this cough is going to kill me today.
Yeah, I don't know too many Lindsays out there.
But he had moved on quickly after that. He quickly joined some other very talented guys around and became the local high school wonder band, you know.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it.
While we remained a little garage band.
Uh-huh. Huh. Man, that's amazing. I'm kind of speechless here. I don't know what to say to that.
It was just local. It was just just a little local community, and just the wealth of talent that came out of there was amazing. But
yeah, but that's a buttload of talent. I mean, just right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, so that's the home of Cheap Trick. So I grew up with the Cheap Trick guys, and I hung out with them guys a little bit. This and that, but that doesn't compare anywhere near to those two guys, let alone Jerry Garcia. Pretty much stands, hands down, is amazing.
Yeah. From that point on, I think it was like I don't know. They were just local, and they played at the pizza parlor and blah blah blah, and I'd go see them. There used to be a lot of warehouse dances.
Warehouse? Oh, I guess so. They didn't have halls and all of that stuff.
No, there was no hall scene yet. I mean, there were some clubs around, but they were reserved for the guys that dressed and looked and played like the Beatles, what have you.
Mm. Yeah,
they remained the grungy guys and always were, and just they knew their lot in life and stayed there.
Yeah, well, hey, JL, this might be a good time to take a break if you like.
Yeah, I'm going to go see if I can't hack out this cough for a minute.
All right. Yeah, I'll keep keep everybody on ice here, and let me change the source real quick.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. So anywho, what do you think about that, guys? Man, that's a lot of history in just a matter of 20 minutes. I mean, we've got quite a bit to cover, but God, could you imagine growing up with growing up with jlgerk? Could you imagine growing up with jlgerk? Could you imagine sitting down with Jerry Garcia, and taking guitar lessons and just like, hey, how's it going, man? That just to me is amazing, because I would have loved to have done that. Let alone I would have loved to have seen Grateful Dead with Jerry Garcia. I've never had the pleasure of doing that, but that would have been very, very cool. We're probably not gonna get through this entire list, guys. So let me just rattle off some of these things. It's kind of cryptic, but Ventures, he's got some drumsticks. He's seen the Beatles in '65 and the Stones in 1966. And wow, what banner, Ruby? What are you talking about? I don't know. I have never saw the Dead, Ramona. Hi, by the way. No, I live a sheltered life. And there you go. I wasn't even into music back in till I was 15, which was 1975 or so. No, 1980. I don't know, somewhere in that area. Michael Shreve, drummer for the Dead, eventually, I believe. Battle bands, drop organ. See, now that's what we got to talk to him about. That he saw Sly Stone, he met Timothy Leary. He was, I think he was at the Doors concert where Jimmy Morrison got busted for being naked. What do you think about that? I don't know. but we're going to find out. JL, welcome back, buddy. I'm just going through a couple of the deals you got here. It's kind of cryptic the way you have it written out, but I'm assuming that I'm going to jump ahead here. It looks like were you at the Doors concert where Jimmy got busted? Oh, Mike, your microphone's off. Mute button. Your mute button.
Oh,
there you go.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I know you had something to say there.
We're jumping in time here, but I was living in Hawaii.
There's no time.
And I had my cousin was from a girl cousin was from L.A. and we were kind of kissing cousins. We were really close, and we were living on the Big Island, and I was really broke all the time, just living off the land basically. And she says, the Doors are playing on Honolulu, on Oahu, right. Honolulu. So she says, here's a round trip plane ticket and a ticket to the concert. Go have fun. So I fly over to Oahu, and I'm really, really early. So I had to find where the hell the venue was. So I found the venue really, in the middle of the afternoon or early afternoon, and I just kind of walked in backstage, and I hung out not with the Doors, but with all the setup crew and what have you, and they're telling me all the stories. Oh, he's just a drunk. So I was hanging out all day backstage. I was actually helping, handing things to guys once in a while and stuff like that. But when the show was about to start, I said, well, you're going to have to leave now. You have to go out front. You can't stay back here now anymore. So I watched the show. It was great. And the show lets out, and I'm walking out of the venue, and I'm thinking to myself, well, where the hell am I going to go now? I have nowhere to go, no money to do anything, or room or anything, And I look next to me, and I see a guy that I grew up with.
No kidding.
On my street, one block away or something. And he says, come on, stay with us. I said, oh, wonderful. That's what I needed, was a nice place to stay. So that was that story.
Wow. That's just
but
fate.
Hanging out backstage all day was really nice.
That is fate. Yeah, I did jump ahead. Because I gravitated to the word naked. So I want to jump back. I mean, we talked about Lindsay, and we talked a little bit about Michael Shreve, and you got a little bit of Ventures and Drumsticks, Beatles, and Stones. I'm assuming you got a chance to see him in those 2 years, right?
Yeah, I saw the Beatles in '65 and the Stones in '66. But the cool thing was, I mean, I didn't meet any of them, but the cool thing about the Beatles in '65 was my dad working for the paper. The newspaper guys were as they were coming and going, get these I can't find them now. They're somewhere out buried in my garage. Some really, really cool pictures of the Beatles backstage and leaving, and this with all the dignitary in San Francisco and stuff. So I was a hit having those pictures and showing people those. At the time, I lied and said, yeah, I was there. Look, I met him. I lied. I didn't meet him. But
I would too.
And my other buddy's mother, who was really encouraging us with the music, she took us to a Ventures show around the same time, and being the kind of woman she is, she got us backstage at a Ventures show after the show to go meet the band. So we met the Ventures, and it's really cool. So she was more into her older stuff. So he plays drums too. So the Ventures drummer gave him some drumsticks. That was fun being back there.
Wow. And you still got those, right?
I don't know if he's got. I didn't get him. He got them, but
okay.
I was back there with him.
Awesome.
Once again, I didn't do anything or get anything. I just happened to be there.
You just be there. I'm starting to get you ever seen The Big Lebowski? I'm starting to get that feeling, You just kind of the dude abides, and you're just kind of going through life, and you have these great fortunes coming your
Pretty
way.
much.
That's cool. I think so. You're my hero, man. You're my new hero. you really are.
Michael, have you guys ever watched the Woodstock movie out there?
Oh, I'm sure.
Anyway, one of the classic scenes in the Woodstock movie is Santana the Santana, whatever, Soul Sacrifice, I think they played. Anyway, that drummer, Michael Shreve, 2 or 3 years earlier, 3 years, that would have been around 66ish. Mm-hmm. He was a friend of another friend's of mine that went to another high school close, and we had jammed a few times. I mean, he wouldn't know me from Adam at this point, but he was just another local guy playing around with him. And I remember one time there was a battle of the bands. We were, that was the thing, the radio station called Battle of the Bands, and Michael Shreve's band was one of the hot ones, and it was just at the high school where he went to. And we walked in, and I walked in, and I was carrying this Farfisa organ, and I dropped it. And everybody looks around and starts cracking up at me for breaking the organ. We
Nice.
did get in the finals in that particular, but then the band broke up, and we sent somebody else in our stead.
You dropped the organ.
And they did carry on. They made a few more points that way.
Excellent. That's awesome. That's fantastic. So you moved on and you met Sly Stone. And what's Go Home Square? See, you're educating me here too, because there's a lot of stuff I am ignorant of.
I contribute to myself to one of the lyrics in one of their songs. There was this little club in Redwood City. This was before the Sly Stone and anybody heard of me. It didn't have any records out. And me and my friend are sitting in there. It was a club, no alcohol, just a club. Kids were allowed and all that, and
Right.
They were teenagers, what have you. And it was we used to go out and what you would call pick up chicks, right? And we weren't having a good night at that. So it was getting late, and I was kind of tired and pissy that we didn't do our big score, which consists of saying hello, and that's about it,
I'm still
Anyway,
married,
so-
and I still get that way.
Yeah. So they start doing this really, this intro, this real ethereal kind of thing. That says, well, where would you like to be? Something like that. And I shouted out, I'd like to go home. And what's her name? Cynthia says to me, oh, go home, square. And then, just a couple months or a year later or something, the record comes out, and she says, go home, all you squares go home. And I swear to God, that was about me.
Excellent. Next time I'll have to check that out and listen to it.
Yeah,
Here
all
you
you
go.
squares go home. It's in Dance to the Music.
That's
I
fascinating.
think that was their first hit.
So were you dabbling at that time, or were you still a square?
No, that was pre-dabble. That was pre-dabble, just shortly before pre-dabble.
Yeah, I think she pushed you over the edge, maybe, huh?
I think she did.
Yes. So you got Greg Rowley on here, which I know that name. When I first saw it, I thought, well, that sounds like the guy from Journey. I think he used to be at
It is.
Santana, and then you went on to Stanford and the Timothy Leary thing. That's interesting. I'm sure there's quite a few people.
Yeah.
I think Ramona out there in the chat has had a brush with Timothy Leary as well. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's a little earlier. Greg Raleigh, and this is before Santana even, also with Michael Shreve. He was just a local guy. He went to Palo Alto High. My wife went to school with him.
Okay. That's cool.
But by this time, the dabbling had begun. And he used to live up on Santa Cruz Avenue, I think it was, or somewhere in the foothills. I'm not exactly sure where. But we'd go there to get acid, and we'd sit, hang around and just eat acid all the time at his house. And there used to be a lot of, around Stanford, there was a little park across from Stanford, I forget the name of that, free concerts, and there used to be a lot of concerts at the pavilion at Stanford. And one day I'm there, I think the Sons of Chaplin were playing, or Santana, somebody, I don't know. And there's Timothy Leary. He's just kind of walking around in a daze just like me. So I said hello, and he said hello, and we kind of both looking at each other like, yeah, I'm there with you too, baby.
Yeah, well, when you're dabbling, you got a lot of time on your hand. I guarantee you that.
So that's about as much words as we exchanged. But we hung out for a little while, watching the band and
hanging out. That's yeah. I guess
he was dressed in this big, I think just a white robe kind of thing, and
wow. They shot him out into space, didn't they? I think he got shot out of they shot him in a rocket out in the universe, didn't they?
I don't know. He was kind of a weirdo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The acid
That's what
didn't help.
Anyway.
That's fantastic. But yeah, I think they shoved him in a can and put him in a rocket and blew him up out into space. At least that's what. At least the last story. That might just be urban legend, but
now that's getting high.
That is very, very high. That's about as high as anybody can get.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Being dead, you can probably go higher, but I think that's as far as that's going to go. And then you bumped into Shirley Temple. That's cruel.
She was another. She lived around us. Like I said, I used to hang out with. I didn't say this yet, but most of my friends, most of them, came from pretty wealthy families. Because I was that strange little black sheep that had the dope and what have you,
Right.
So anyway, we used to go to Shirley Temple's house and just to eat acid with her kids. It was fun. She was pretty spaced out. I mean, she was. I don't know what drugs she was on, but she was wacko and really right winger, but she didn't know her kids were having me come over just to get some ass.
That's awesome. I mean, if I didn't know you, I could have swear you're bullshitting me right now.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that to you. It's true. It's true.
That's amazing. Sure, I did acid with Shirley Temple's kids.
It was really funny because I wanted to say "Surrender Dorothy" to her. That was.
Now you're on it. Well, if you're tripping, that would have been funny.
We all watched those old Shirley Temple movies, right?
Yeah, Good Ship Lollipop.
Yeah.
Wow, that's funny, and I'm completely straight right now, and I think that's just hysterical. I don't know why, but
at Shirley Temple's house on acid. Think about it.
I know that would be frightening. I think that would be just frightening. So here's something on the list, Jay, that you're going to have to educate me on, and I'm hoping maybe other people out there, because I don't want to be the only one that's ignorant here. But Altamont, dead examiner. Walk me through that sentence there.
Oh, the dead. They had gone there to play.
Mm-hmm.
I was working at the Examiner at the time, so I was in the city a lot. And my wife was my future wife was living in the Haight, so I'd stick around town a lot just to go see her, and because we weren't even boyfriends and girlfriend at the time, we were just good friends. Well, with our community of dopers, what have you, and
Sure.
So Altamont was happening one day, and I didn't want to go to that. I was just hanging around the city, and sure enough, this place they used to play, which there was originally Fillmore, and then the Dead got this place. What the hell was it called? I forget what it was called, but it turned into what they called Fillmore for a while.
Okay.
And it says Dead tonight because the Dead didn't even play at Altamont, because they went there and found out that people were getting killed in fights, and they didn't know about the death yet, but anyway. It was just the Angels, which they helped hire for security. Now, think about that.
Yeah. Okay,
so they just left. They didn't even set up. They just left and came back to the city. And so I went there, and it was just another one of the million times I had seen them by then. But there was like 200 people, if that. And so it was just so intimate that night, being there with them. And not at Altamont.
Right.
It was much more fun being just in the club there in San Francisco.
God, I bet that was
watching my boys again. I must, you talk about deadheads. other than the people that through the years have just followed them endlessly, I saw so many shows with them, just ridiculous. How many?
Wow, that's amazing. I never got a chance to. I think my brother has saw them or seen them, and yeah, I wish I would have took that opportunity when I had it, and I didn't. I wish I would have. I know they're still around, right? They're still playing out, just without.
Well, Bobby's got another band called Rat Dog, and Phil is getting really, really whacked, but he puts on shows with Phil and friends. But the what they call the Dead anymore, they may do a show once in a while, but it's without Jerry, it's just all falling apart.
Wow, that's amazing.
But Bobby has always done side jobs. Seen lots of his other shows too.
Yeah, see, I'm just so out of the loop on a lot of that stuff. I don't even know. Man, I just could kick myself. If I had an opportunity to go back, I'd definitely do things differently, for sure. It's just a douche. a couple of things, and I wish.
That's what you get from being from the Midwest.
I know, damn Midwest. I listen to Cheap Trick. I'm stuck in the '80s with my big hair.
Gio yell at me for saying that. I know. I'm sorry. I love everybody.
Yeah, I know. They've been going to town. They're definitely a chatty bunch out there. I can't keep up with it. I can't multitask.
I'm not even looking. I'm busy talking to you, buddy.
I appreciate that, but I'm trying to include these folks in there, but I can't. Man, it's just zooming on by. So, anyways, well, they're not even there.
So that being '69, that was the end of '69. So
yeah, and we covered the Doors Busted Naked thing, and then you went to Albuquerque, and then with the FCC.
I told us Busted Naked before. This was my first trip to living in Hawaii. I just got busted for swimming naked. I mean, we were taking our morning bath. You guys saw the pictures of the hooligans on the porch.
Yeah.
The local boy with the long curly blondish hair, he was who I was with, and of course they set him free because he was local, but they took me to jail. I had to put my boxer shorts on, because that's what I wore in the days. I had boxer shorts that I sewed up the hole with, and those are my clothes. So I spent the day in jail, and then went to see the judge in the afternoon in my boxer shorts and nothing else.
That's excellent.
I got fined $25, which I had a friend go sell some pot and to bring me $25.
That's resourceful, man. That's outstanding.
Yeah. So he busted me out for that. Yeah. Then I came back from Hawaii. That was my first trip. I forget exactly how long I was there. Quite a while. And came back and moved to Albuquerque with a friend of mine whose parents had died, and he was off to college. He went to University of New Mexico, and there got really into the college radio station. I found a home there. You needed an FCC license to be a jock, right?
Right.
So I studied, and I got my FCC license there, and that was 71-ish, early 71 or something like that. Or late 70s, something like that. I graduated high school in '69, in case anybody wants to know.
Wow. I think I was learning how to ride a tricycle.
So yeah, that's that was my Albuquerque experience. Let's see, we drove out there. I was in the back seat of a Firebird with full of luggage and my I had a German Shepherd, a big German Shepherd at the time. So me and the German Shepherd and some luggage were in the back seat of a
'69 Firebird,
which is not a lot of room, right?
No. No, you got that hump. You got that hump in the middle.
Driving from San Francisco to Albuquerque. So, but me and a friend hitchhiked. We hitchhiked all the way from Albuquerque back to SF. That was quite a trip, especially hanging out in L.A. Boy, that was scary.
Yeah, you don't see that anymore. You don't see people hitchhiking these days anymore. It's too.
I don't. That was my mode of transportation for a long, long time, and I remember saying, boy, if and when I ever get a car, I'm going to pick up everybody I see. Of course, that's changed. I don't pick up anybody anymore.
Right. Isn't that funny? Do you find it's kind of a side break right now, but do you look around and you see some of the kids these days and some of the stuff that they do, and do you shake your head, or do you go, I did that, I was kind of on the fringe of things. How do you? A
little bit of both.
Yeah.
Both. It depends on my mood.
Yeah, me too. I guess I would have to agree with you there. I see some kids and I go, man, I used to think I looked cool too, but I realize now that I was just I looked silly, but it was different back then. I mean, it wasn't just a fad, or it was a lifestyle. It was a choice. It was a part of you. It wasn't. You weren't wearing fancy pants or boxers because everybody was wearing boxers. I mean, that's just the way that's the life. Is the way it was. The way.
Hey, it was hot and I was broke.
There you go. That's fantastic. So so you're hitchhiking back from Albuquerque back to San Francisco, and then you got Neil Young on, and with some amps, a Jeep, and New Riders, Jerry guitar.
Yeah, so there was a period there before I went back to Hawaii. I don't know how long it was. Like I said, time just overlaps sometimes. You don't know what's going on, but when you hear the song "I've been to Hollywood, I've been to Redwood," well, he's referring to Redwood City because that's where his ranch is. So once again, another local guy, sort of. My friend, I was living at a friend of mine's who wasn't even living there, but I was living there with his mother at this big estate place. They was kind of.
She didn't know who you were. She know who you were.
I needed a place to stay. I didn't, that's it. So I was living at this house, and a friend of mine had gotten a job from Neil that to fix a bunch of his amps. So he brought over about 15, 20 old Fenders, little ones, what have you, because he needed a place to do it. He didn't have a place to do it, and I was living at this big ass house, living in the basement of this big ass house. I said, yeah, bring him over here. So he brought all of Neil's amps over, and he was fixing them there, and wow. One day, we had borrowed Neil's Jeep, it was a Willys, what it was, and we're driving around, and it fucking breaks. It dies, and we just left it where it was, which was on the freeway, actually, a freeway. Yeah, we got hollered at for that.
You think? Yeah.
And around the same time, if you look at Jerry Garcia in his first album, or even the early days, that red Guild guitar, which is the same guitar that he taught me on, which he played. I brought my own guitar. He had played that. Another friend who was in the New Riders of the Purple Sage, Dave Torbert, was another friend of a friend. And he says, here, I need a place to stash this guitar for a while. Can you hold on to this guitar for me for a while? And it was Jerry's guitar. So I was in possession of that for about 6 months or a year or so.
I bet.
Which was a joy.
Man, that's amazing. Dude, we should write a book. You should write a book. What am I saying, we?
Well, we're recording it now. All somebody has to do is type it.
There you go. So then you ended up back in Hawaii, and you got involved.
Yeah, it was time to go back to Hawaii. I had to get out of the city again,
And is that's with the same folks in the pictures where you're on.
Yeah, the short white guy. He doesn't look white, but really curly hair. And the other guy sitting on my driveway with his pedal board out there. I had made that pedal board for him.
Cool.
That was post Hawaii, that picture. But anyway. Yeah, he was over there all by himself for a while. I said, "Come on over, man. I need some more guys in the band, and bring some guitar strings while you're at it." So me and another friend, we loaded up, our equipment and bought a case of guitar strings and went over there and formed the Kona Coasters. And there was no electricity where we were living. We had to use car batteries. Somehow we got car batteries to power the amps.
That sounds like was Kuda there?
I don't know. Could have been. Kuda kind of looks like one of my buddies over there.
Yeah, I mean, he would have
So
hooked
we
up
were the
some
house
kind of
band.
That's
Well, there was
awesome.
the Islands band. We played at all the stoned out party. Oh, here's another story. Went to this we were playing this party up in the hills at somebody's cool house, and I get there pretty early, and they say, "Hey, the local Filipinos just turned us on, man. Let's take a walk up the hill." And we found mushrooms, man. We were eating mushrooms. Good mushrooms, man. and I had cow. They're growing cow shit, right?
Right,
right. My face was covered in cow shit, and once you start eating them, as you're walking through the fields, and you start to get high, then they come out. You can see them. They're just calling you. There's some more over here. There's some more over here. So we got really buzzed on these mushrooms. They went back down to the party, and by that time my bandmates had got there. I said, "Oh, hold on, boys. It's going to be a bumpy ride tonight."
That's outstanding. God, that just, man, you're bringing back a lot of memories of me growing up and some of the things I did, and God, they're parallel. I didn't meet I didn't meet any talent out along the way, but it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's outstanding. Oh, man.
So one day we heard that there's going to be a real band at this club. So our herd of hippies just hangs out in the front door. We had no money, no tickets or nothing. We just hung out long enough that they finally let us in. And it turns out that there's Neil Sean, who had just, Santana had broken up and Journey had not started yet.
I love him.
But so Neil Sean and Greg Raleigh, who obviously started Journey,
right.
They're playing. And once again, Greg didn't know, he didn't recognize me at all. But I'm in the bathroom with him, and we were toking some pot in the bathroom.
Right.
And I said to Neil, well, where's Michael? Michael Shreve, because he was drumming for Santana. And I forget exactly what he said, but something like, "Oh, he's square, he's out. He's no good, blah, blah, blah." So, okay, well, what the hell?
Wow.
So, and they spend about a week or so hanging out around our community of friends there, and one of the hippie hoes who was hanging out with Greg Raleigh a lot. She says, "Oh, this guy," because we were all, meat was a rare thing around there for us at those times. He said, "All he does is eat steak and potatoes. It's terrible."
Man, that's incredible. So, I mean, how long did it take you to come back from all of that, all those shrooms and cow shit you?
Oh, I don't think I have yet. I haven't yet. I haven't come down from that one yet.
That's what got you to iComps, probably, huh? That's awesome.
Things were so bad there. One time I had a chunk of money. I forget how I got it, but we were growing pot and what have you. But for some reason it was off season or something. We didn't have any, so a friend of mine said, "Well, give me all your money. I'll go to Honolulu. I know where I can get a bunch of pot, good pot." Okay, or Maui. I forget where he went. But he comes back, and he had spent all my money on acid. I said, "Oh man, what am I going to do with 500 hits of acid?" Well,
I could think of something.
let me tell you what we did. We had a good time for a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Did bring back a little bit of pot. So I had no money left. I out of money. All I had was a bunch of acid and a little bit of pot. So I needed some money for some food or something. So I'm going to go to town, see if I can get some idiot to buy some pot for some money. So I jumped in this car somebody wanted, and I felt strange right off the bat because there was like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 guys in this car. and it felt funny to begin with.
Sure.
So I sell him some bag of pot, and said, "Oh, you're under arrest." It was the police chief's son.
Damn. The pigs.
So they threw him in jail.
Got busted. Was it minor though? It was only a little bit though. Couldn't have been too bad.
Yeah, I think it was an ounce.
Oh, no.
But
That's pretty good.
I spent a week in jail waiting to go to court, and I tell you, it was one of the best weeks of my life. It really was. I got fed good, had a nice bed to sleep in.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
The locals, they taught me how to make weave a fish net. It was pretty good. So I go to court, and the judge says, "Hey, howdy, boy. Did you do? Yeah, I did. Okay, if you leave the island, I'll let you go." I said, "Oh, cool." So he just let me go. I said, "Well, you got to leave the island. You got to go. Go back to mainland, boy."
Uh-huh.
I said, "Okay," but I didn't. I stayed there. I got out, and it was all good.
Well, cool. So you can go back anytime. You know, it's not like you're banned.
No. They wouldn't know. I've been back a few times since.
Well, that's outstanding.
And shortly after that, my future wife was actually in Europe at the time. We also kind of had been together the first time I was in Hawaii, off and on, blah blah blah, mutual friends, what have you.
Right.
But we were corresponding. I said, "Well, come on, come back to Hawaii. And, you know, I love you, blah blah blah." So she comes back to Hawaii, and then that's where my love life started.
Excellent. It's a good thing, huh? Probably not a day too late.
No.
Too soon.
Well, the commune, as you might want to call it, it was more of a mess than a commune, but it was slowly breaking up. People were leaving, going this way and that way. The band had broken up and what have you. So I was hanging out with her. We were living together for a while, and this and that. And that's where I started. I needed a job, so that's where I started making cabinets. I just went to a cabinet shop and said, "Oh, sure, I'll clean the floor or whatever, you know." So that's where my now almost 40-year career started.
Well, that's great. That part's I'm fascinated by that part. You know, but we can probably talk about 40 years of cabinet making just on one show alone. So I might have to ask you back for a part 2, like I'm going to do Tom, because we left Tom off at 19, or when he was 24 or something like that. So we can go on again.
Well, here, this is another picture you don't have, but that's where I lived. Let's see. Let's get this.
Yeah, I can see it. You got a guitar in your hand, and you're looking out a window. Is that the shack in Hawaii?
This is the front shack. From that shack, we're all on the floor there, on the door, on the porch, what have you. This building was right next to this is the big deck where they would dry the coffee beans, because this is all coffee plantations we were squatting on actually. So I lived in this. It was too chaotic at the main house because it was just party, and everybody was crashing there and this. So I went and got the solitude of the little room outside. I always felt much better about that.
Oh, cool.
So and then the wife lived there for a while, and she was cooking for all these bachelors. She was the house mama, right? So that fall apart. So we kind of moved into town, Kailua Kona, and off and on another place. Moved back out of the country, this and that. And I got this cabinet job, and we got pregnant. And of course, the thought of marriage, it was never in our mind. That wasn't something you needed to do.
Right.
But we were pregnant, looking wonderfully forward to this child. And just one day I woke up and it says, "Hey, just for the sake of the kid, let's go get married."
Wow.
She says, "Okay." So we found out what we had to do. We took a blood test the same day. We needed to find a witness, a friend of mine, same day. Had to find a preacher, same day. So by that evening, we were married. You saw the marriage pictures. We're out on the beach, right by the beach anyway. Because the preacher, there was just some preacher. There was the preacher of some motel or hotel, rather.
Right.
So in the course of one day, we woke up and says, "Hey, let's get married." We did everything we had to, and that day we were married.
Wow, that's cool. That's a good decision too, because you've been married ever since, haven't you?
Yeah, 37 years in 2 months.
Congratulations. That is that's outstanding. I mean, really. I don't mean to sound flippant on that, but 37 years to be married is
Yeah,
is a
and
major
as
accomplishment.
I always say, it's been 12 of the most wonderful years of my life.
Still coming down off those shrooms, aren't you?
No, there was a couple weeks here that were good. There was a couple weeks there that were
Oh
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's a part of life. That's what happens. Hey, JL, you want to take a break? Because I want to cover a couple of more things, but I don't want to quit broadcasting. But I want to give you a chance to have a smoke and do whatever you need to do, and come back.
Yeah,
And
we'll
I want
part
to talk a
three.
little bit about iComps a little bit, and then we'll do whatever you want after that.
Great, I'll be right back.
All right, guy. All right. Hey, you guys. You guys having a good time out there? What do you think? That JL, he's some guy, huh? Yeah, he's man. I just love this story. I could talk to this guy forever. I can. We've had a couple of really nice chats about power tools and just cabinet make woodworking and stuff. Something I wish I would have done when I was earlier. Instead, I went in to do something else. But whatever. He's a guitar player, so he's all right in my book. Is everybody still out there in chat? I'm going to try to catch up on a few things. I haven't asked a whole lot of questions. I know you guys are asking some questions to JL, and I can't keep up with the chat. My bifocals, as you can see, I'm doing this. I'm looking there. And I'm old. And Jessie, if she's still out there, she gives me grief about it all the time. For those of you who don't know, Jess 0118 is a very good friend of mine, works with in the same organization that I work in. And her husband is a very good friend of mine. Love her. Love him. So, hey, Rich, thanks for stopping by. I see you're taking off. I understand. We got storms in the area, too, I believe, but I'm not a big fraidy cat like you. So, anyways, I'm going to light up, too. Hey, guys, this is a good time for you to go to the bathroom, refresh your cocktails, do whatever. I was going to throw some videos out, but I couldn't convert them. So maybe next time I'm going to go ahead and do that and throw some commercials from my sponsors. And but for right now, you just got me. I'm not Grandpa Nick, Jess. I'm going to beat your ass tomorrow. You. So anyways, when JL gets back, we're going to go ahead and talk about how he got to Arnold, California, and this other word he wrote down. And we're going to talk a little bit about iCompositions. What do you think of JL's background? Look at all that, man. That's the coolest background. I need to work on mine, that's for damn sure. Looks like Jay is on his way back, where he's settling in. He's putting on the headgear. There he is, cracking open himself a Budweiser.
Nope, no headphones today. I just got the monitor really low.
Good.
I can't wear headphones that long. It hurts.
I hear you. Good man. Jess, I don't know what that word is, so I'll ask you about it tomorrow. And I'm not Grandpa Nick. I got a gal in the chat that I work with who is giving me grief. She's not even an iCompositions member, and she's already
Banner.
on the. I know. That's why moderators work. Anyways, all right. So you're refreshed, relaxed, kicking back. We're gonna pop on over to another section. I don't know if you want to go into the port plastics and that.
We can rip through this really quick.
Okay.
We're about to have the baby, and in Hawaii, and they didn't like us Howleys at all. You know, people were dying at the hospital, they're just sitting there. So we said, well, we better go back home. We better go back to Stanford. So we left Hawaii and came back. And one of the first jobs I got coming back was in this plastic factory. I was cutting plastic. And it turns out I was cutting faceplates for the very first Pong games.
Pong,
you know that Pong where the paddle and the ball goes back and forth and you hit it?
Yeah.
I was cutting the clear plastic face plates for those. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what I was doing.
Wow, then that'd be like what is all these computer things all about? That would get my attention.
Yeah, well, I was cutting the circuit board, the green stuff you see on circuit boards is called G10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I cut a lot of those. Well, because where I'm from, the Silicon Valley. I mean, before the computer revolution, there was Hewlett Packard and Ampex and who knows else what was around there. All these tech places. And they were ordering this stuff, so I have no idea what these circuit boards were going into, but I was cutting them.
Wow.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And I was at that time the guys that we were in Hawaii with, at least one of them, we were back the old band time. I get the band back together.
Right.
We get a band back together, and one night we're playing this up in La Honda, which is Redwood Mountains in the Santa Cruz Mountains, basically. And we're sitting there playing, and Neil Young walks in because he lived down the street, basically, and he says, "Hey, can I jam with you guys?" And we said, "Well, let's think about this." "Sure, get your ass up here." So we had a wonderful night jamming with Neil all night.
Wow, that's incredible. Is that that's the Boots and Saddles reference you made?
Yeah,
there?
it's all burned down now, but we used to play there like maybe twice a month. It seems like we played there a lot.
Oh,
It was the place to play. All the hippies.
God, I miss playing live. It was a big pain in the ass most of the time, but man, looking back, it was a lot of fun.
Well, with this band, I was just playing bass. Because there were so many guitar players from that area. Just so much better than me. I said, "Sure, I'll play bass for you." So that was cool. I got to play bass for Neil Young for all night. It was great.
That's cool. That looks great on a resume too.
Yeah, I don't make resumes, man. I don't fill out job applications. I said, "You hire me or not, that's it."
Exactly. When I was in the Navy, I was the bass player for Van Morrison was one of my bunkmates.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you his name from Adam right now, but so who's Bill Chaplin and what's that Chateau?
Bill Chaplin. There was a local band in San Francisco back in the day called the Sons of Chaplin, and one of our favorites because they had horns. Just one of our favorites. But Bill Chaplin has been playing with Chicago keyboards and some singing for Chicago for about, at least 25 years now.
Wow.
But he was one of our favorites. He was playing up at the Chateau Liberté. Anybody from Santa Cruz would know that. It's up in the mountains of Santa Cruz. And he didn't know me from Adam. I'd never met the man before, but we went to a gig up in where he was playing because if they were playing somewhere, we went because we loved them. It's still to this day. Anyway, a small mountain bar, it's a chateau.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent the entire afternoon sitting next to him on his keyboard bench while he was playing, sucking down beers. and he let me do it, which is totally cool.
That is cool. So who got busted that night?
Nobody got busted that night. But maybe my thing is filling. I was at
Ben.
Ben's my oldest son, and at this time, he was a year or two old, and I was over at a friend's house in an apartment, and we were jamming, making lots of noise, and disturbing people, and I happened to be babysitting my son Ben, and I put him back to, we would do jamming. I put him in the back bedroom, and he fell asleep. So we had stopped jamming. We're sitting there on the floor rolling up some joints. Yeah. And without a knock, the door opens.
Oh, man.
There's some cops there. I said, "Okay, we got some complaints, boys." "Oh, what you doing there, boys?"
Nice.
They said, "Well, okay, let's hook them up."
Aww.
They hook us up, and I said, "Well, wait a minute. I got to get my son. He's in the back." And they said, "What?"
That sucks. Cops are not cool.
Well, they were nice. They said, "Okay, you guys flush the pot, and we'll let you go."
Oh, that's cool.
So my son saved me from going to jail that time.
That's cool. Have you mentioned that to him?
No, but I think I should though.
Well, I think you have if this is recorded. Hope you're not.
I don't know what would have happened. That would have been funny.
Hope you're not planning on running for politics or anything like that in the near future.
Oh, it's okay now. I mean, Obama's admitted.
Yeah, Has he exhaled, didn't he?
Oh, and by the way, here's the strange thing in my life. I stopped really getting into sports when I got older than all the players. and now, for the first time in my life now, I'm older than the president.
Really? Yeah, I guess
this is the first time in my life. Yeah.
Really? So Bush is older than you?
Yeah, I'm 58 now.
Not that you're old. I didn't realize Bush was that old. Like, that shows how much I pay attention.
Not a lot. I don't know. What is he? I don't know, 62 or so. I don't know. I don't care about him.
He's a nitwit.
But anyway, Obama is younger. What's Obama, 48?
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know either. Is Ramona still out in the crowd? She'd probably know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you moved to Arnold after that then, right?
Yeah, I used to, back when I was living at that time we were discussing just a moment ago, we weren't back from Hawaii too long, and I just couldn't take the city anymore. I had to get out. But I had a friend who lived up here in the mountains, which is 150 miles east, almost due east of San Francisco. Okay. And we come up here fishing, just summer trips, camping trips, because I had a friend of a friend lived up here, and one day I said, "Hey man, you guys got a hardware store? I can buy screws and nails, and I can make some cabinets, here." I said, "Okay, we got to get out of the city. Got to get it back to the country, Sure. And so we moved up here, and I got a job at the local cabinet shop. I'd taken some doors that I had made to show my wares, as you say. Right. And he said, "Yeah, okay, I'll hire you." I was making pretty good money down in the Bay. My boss offered me, I think, a $2,000 bonus not to leave. I said, "No, I got to go." So I come up here, $5 an hour, which was like, I don't know what I was making at the time, 11 or 12, something like that, which is pretty good money for those days. This was at 77.
Yeah.
But come to find out, I was making more than, at him hiring me at $5 an hour, I was making more than the other two guys that were working there. They were making $4.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's always a nice, tense situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually, 32 years later, I'm working with both of them now again.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. One of them is running the place kind of. He's actually running it into the ground.
So is that the guys you had in your pictures when you had your flag? You had a couple of pictures.
Yeah, one of them. Well, the bigger guy is Dave.
Okay.
Notice Dave, I said bigger.
Right.
Oh, I guess Sandy's not in the other one. But anyway, our motto was, which we came up with, of course, me coming up with names and mottos, you know how I am pretty good with that.
Yes, you are.
I said, between the three of us, we have over 100 years experience of building cabinets in Arnold, which is a pretty small town. Which right now it's dying again, but anyway. Wow. So I moved to Arnold, and then life just kind of got weird, and I had sold most of my equipment, my musical equipment, down in the Bay to move up here. I only had I think a guitar and a half of an amp left, and I sold those off. I had nothing for a while.
Yeah, been there.
And but every band, there was a pretty jumping club in town here, and every band that came to town, I was right on them. Hey, let me jam, let me sit in, blah 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 blah, constantly. I was the town jamming whore.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So that's where you titled yourself Jam Whore. That's great.
Yes,
Is that the?
And then I got, I had to get some more equipment. I just couldn't have nothing, so I got an acoustic guitar, which I still have, and then I got me a Les Paul a little while later, and set up a studio in my garage, and everybody that played, come on over, let's jam all night long. And I tell you, my poor neighbors. Nobody ever called the cops on us because you play all night, a
Sure.
lot, and loud.
Yeah.
And it's really quiet up in the mountains here, right? So the music carried forever. And
That's
not too long ago, one of my neighbor's kids started playing drums and having guys come over and jam. And I tell you, it irritates the hell out of me now. And I just don't know how my neighbors put up with it.
Really, that's outstanding because you can't find that. I couldn't do that here. I couldn't have a drummer in my basement because my neighbors. You know the story about my neighbors. I can't even get on my own roof of my own damn house.
We'll have none of that. They call me Batman around here. They're scared of me because one of my kids was pretty young. He had a job. The wife saw to it that they had jobs and learned how to deal with money at a very early age. So every evening he'd be driving his bike home, and one of the neighbor's dogs would attack him almost every freaking night. And I just got fed up with it, and I took a baseball bat, and was combing the streets looking for this dog, screaming, "I see this dog, I'm going to kill him." They call me Batman now.
Okay, that'd be awesome to get that on video. We'll put that out on iComps.
But I didn't really get back into any kind of music till the early '90s, and I had some equipment again and was jamming a lot. And a buddy of mine says, "Hey, I got this chick who likes to sing. Let's start this band." So did a bunch of band stuff in the early 90, 91, 92, 93-ish, which ended up sending me to jail basically. me and the horn player, we had a horn player. He played flute and saxophone, so I called him bihornal, which he didn't really like a lot. But
is that the DUI?
Yeah, we spent the weekend. I mean, there was times where between Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, we'd do 6 shows. I mean, really, we were all over the place doing just gigging to death. So I think we had played like 3 shows on a Thursday and a Friday, and didn't have anything to do on a Saturday. So we went out, got a bunch of beer, loaded up in the truck, and of course I was the hauler. I had the pickup truck, and we're driving around the Tri-County area, it's going to every bar and what have you, looking, signing up people where we can play. And we get back to our home base because we were the house band at one local bar. And we got back and just looped. I
bet.
And I said, "Okay, I'm going to go home now. Can we go to your girlfriend's house and get some pot before we go?" He said, "Yeah, okay." So we leave, and somebody in the bar had phoned the cops and says, "Hey, pick these guys up." I don't know if they do it anymore, but I guess you got free lottery tickets or something for turning people in. So they had town all boarded up. I mean, not boarded up, but there's only 2 ways out of town, and they had cops everywhere, and I couldn't get out of town, so I got popped for that. Check this out. I blew a 2-3.
Oh, really? Were you driving?
Of course. I was driving fine.
I was driving fine.
Words.
Well, back then they didn't have.
.08.
Did they
the
have?
limit was .08, and I blew a 2-3. So I spent another week in jail, which is a pretty good week too. Every time I go to jail, it's pretty good.
That's being optimistic. That's for sure.
But not too long after that, I was out of work, and the wife was really pissed because I wasn't making no money. She was having to do everything. So I moved to Sacramento, which is about 100 miles away. And I got a real job, cabinet shops. Actually, went through 4 of them there. And in that time, my mother had died in early 90s, 93-ish or something like that. My dad had died in, I think, 99 or something like that. So I got a chunk of change from that. And I'd spent my whole life staying away from computers. I said, computers, I can, because they started taking over the cabinet business.
I was the same way.
Yeah, and my brother, who had been in the print business also, was on Macs really, really early, and another friend in the print business. They were on computers for years and years and years, and this other friend was the same friend was really into digital music, not digital, but what do you call it? MIDI.
Yeah.
But I wanted no part of it, and so I had this chunk of change from my dad's death and settling that estate and all what have you, and my wife says, I'd really like to get a computer just because I need it for some work stuff and just said, okay, I'll get you a computer. So we bought a computer, G3 Mac, the old television looking ones, right?
Yep.
And I got on that and I says, wow, I've really been missing something. Really been missing something. So shortly after that, I got myself a notebook because I was living in Sacramento and coming home. I rent an apartment there, and I come home like 3 weekends a month back to home here because that's where the money was. There was no money up here, and there still isn't. But so I had to get me a notebook for myself, and it just snowballed from there. And
why a Mac?
and this was what I guess either late '99 or early 2000 or something. I guess it was late '99. Got my had my first computer, and just fell in love with it to death. And then I remember somewhere in late '93, late 2003. Apple announced they were going to put out GarageBand, and God, I said to myself, because I'd always wanted to get a little 4-track, the little Tascam 4-track. Never got around to doing that.
Yep.
And I said, wow, now this I got to find out about this. So I went on the net and started searching for GarageBand, blah blah blah. And there was like about a dozen startup sites. And I joined all of them, iCompositions being one of them. And very shortly, I stopped doing all the rest and just stayed on iComp and never went away. PM couldn't get rid of me. So one day he says, well, you want to be a moderator? I said, well, what the hell is that? Oh, nothing. Just look around and tell me if anything's fishy. I said, okay. And then somewhere on down the line, the iComp world just exploded. It just exploded, and I've been so in love with it ever since.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the 11th person, the 25th person to sign on.
Really?
I'm number 25 out of over 90,000 now.
Yeah, 90,000.
Well, even we know that 85 of those thousand are bogus, but.
True.
But we have a strong, healthy community, and
absolutely,
it isn't there one, and it's so nice to see people like yourself who hasn't been here that long, really.
No.
And lots of others are just coming and just fall in love with the home that we've made, and it's a wonderful thing.
Well, yeah, I mean to sum it all up, just like what you've been talking about this whole hour and a half of. And I've told you this before. I've told several people this before. I get the same impression when I'm here in this community. When I first joined, it's like those days when I don't do outdoor concerts hardly at all anymore. But it just reminds me of that. You walk in, you walk into a crowd of a community of people at the show that they're camping out and they're just sitting around the fire or whatever, and they're like, hey, come on in. They share their beer, their food with you and whatever, and you just hang out and you just have a good time and you maybe sing some songs, enjoy the music, and then you just go about your way or whatever, and it's just a great experience. And I feel that, and part of that is because of you, JL, because you bring a lot of that to the table. You're active in the chat, you're active in a lot of other areas of it, and I appreciate you for that. You know that. I love the fact that you do that. There's several people out there, and I've mentioned it in the past, but I mean, Beck, Geo, Tommy, Rich, all those guys. I know Jay Dwyer. I've chatted with him in Skype a few times, but I don't know a lot of the moderators. I've seen a red guy in the chat with Genome. He's been around lately.
No, he's never around anymore. He was one of the first guys that PM hooked up with to do the to make it to. He's the IT guy, or one of them. He's been around a little bit lately. I don't know why, but he's a token admin. But
yeah, but
he was one of the guys that helped PM get it all off the floor.
Yeah, well, I mean, and kudos to him. He probably doesn't get enough pats on the back, I would say. But you know, I mean, the coolest thing about all of this, and that's why I came up with that analogy, is it's free. It's been free. It's been free from the get-go. And you know what? There is so much that is given to you as an artist at iComps that is free. Nobody browbeats you.
I don't know how PM does it.
I don't either.
I mean, I've been lucky enough to have ad-free for, well, I've never seen ads. Okay, how's that?
Yeah.
So I don't know how he makes it with the ads. And you know that the services that people sign on to, you know, the ad-free and podcast, whatever, the few measly little dollars that are asked of,
right.
I don't see how because he's got to be paying a fortune for bandwidth and server space and all that, all the other details.
Exactly.
I don't know how he does it. And tell you, when we had the big crash a year or two or however long ago that was, and within a week we raised $12,000.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely amazing. Just amazing. Amazing.
It is, and that's the coolest thing about it, is that it's, you know, you're not getting browbeat for money. No one's asking you, or no one's forcing you, or you don't, you know, it's not even in the advertisement, it's not even in the blah blah. It's this little tiny blurb at the bottom. Hey, if you want to make a contribution, you know, it's like, that's cool. I mean, it's not church, you know, where they pass a plate and
we
guilt
require
you.
10% of your income.
Yeah, or guilt you, trip you into.
You know, I have selfishly, time and time again, said, PM, I'm broke. Is there any way we can make money on this?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, nope, ain't gonna do it. Ain't gonna do it.
Yeah, and he's been pretty sturdy with his vision of the site, and I you know, you got to commend him for that, because most people would cave and you know, turn into a Google, you know, or something like that. I mean, you know, that could possibly happen down the road. It wouldn't be a big deal. But you know, for the meantime, geez, with having that many people and you know, with the recent server upgrade, by the way, I'm an IT guy, and I've done that, and it went really well. It's great planning, great communication. Everything was awesome.
You know what else is funny about this one? Because we've had server upgrades before, but prior to that, PM was asking for contributions to help with that.
Mm-hmm.
This time, nothing. He just did it. I don't know how he did it, what he did.
Right. Yeah, hats off to PM. For sure, and you guys and the entire staff who keep it going.
Oh, you just can't get rid of me. I'm not going anywhere. You can't get rid of me.
I know, we need moderators to keep you in line, don't we, Jeff?
But I mean, I don't think PM has any plans of doing other than what we're doing now and keeping it going and just making it better. Yeah, I know he has no plans of selling it for money.
Right.
Well, I don't know that, but I can. Sure. I believe he doesn't.
No, I mean, because it would have happened a long time ago, I think, if that was the case, because it's pretty easy. And you know, you guys aren't just some little poo-poo organization. I mean, it's universal. It's, you know, it's worldwide, and it's well known.
Mm-hmm.
For crying out loud, you Google my name and everything comes up iComp. You know.
Yeah. Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too. Almost everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome, and you just, you know, and I'm kind of looking forward to this Ustream thing kicking off a little bit. And I had an idea that I want to run past you, and I'll do that offline. But I had an idea that came to mind last night, actually. So, which might be a little bit of fun. So I'll bug you about it some other time. But
not a problem. You know I'm here for you.
You betcha. Beck's here, and Beck's in the audience. Beck,
Beck's my mom. My mom.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's the first. She's the one that got me. First person I met. First person that actually responded to me and chatted with me, and she did a wonderful job. And she welcomed me like like a mom, but we're probably the same age, so I mean that with all due respect. Back, not saying it, but anyways, yeah, she's in there fighting it all the time and welcoming people in, and she's a great asset to iComps as well. So, man, we covered an awful lot, and I appreciate you hanging out this long, Jay.
We covered my entire life.
Almost.
See, you don't need me for another one. I did it.
Well, I might have to bug you in chat then, because I might go back and ask you a question that I might have forgotten to ask, but you did well, and I appreciate everyone out in the audience for sticking around and for this, and this is gonna run all week too, and I think next week, guys, we got Geo Fat Chance. I don't know if he's still out in the audience or not, but
I see him sign in.
Yeah, he's out there. He's probably just listening. I'd like to get Rich. Rich took off, but I'd like to make an iCWeekly month.
Rich has no connection right now.
Is that what it is? You think
he's on wireless only. We're about a couple weeks away from getting video up on iCWeekly, so I'll be doing it from Studio B here for the foreseeable future.
Okay. Well, I'll get him in another time, but Jay, I really do appreciate it. You're my favorite out there, man. I love you. I love your sense of humor. That's one thing we didn't talk about, is where the hell did you come up with all that?
Well, if it wasn't for sarcasm, I'd have nothing.
Yeah, you and I got a lot in common. There's only one girl out there in the audience right now that knows me, and that's Jess is out there, and she knows I'm pretty. Nobody likes me at work except for Jess.
Oh, my every place I work at, my handle is the grumpy old man.
Really?
Yep. And I am when I work, definitely. But I don't take crap from nobody. I tell, if I got a grievance, I air it.
Good.
I tell you.
That's the way to do it. Live a stress-free life.
And I have lots of grievances when it comes to work, let me tell you.
I bet you. Hey, let me stop the recording. You want to stick around a little bit, or you got things you got to do? You want to take a break?
Well, let me check. I might be having dinner plans. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, let me stop the recording, and then I'll chat with a few people out here. You need to do what you need to do, and if you can't make it back, that's cool too. No big deal.
I'll go check, come back, and see what's going on.
All right.
I want to thank all you, my family members, for tuning in and listening to my drug-induced past.
It was a great story, Jay.
Oh, by the way, I haven't eaten acid since that time in '72. So don't be going there with me now, okay?
All right, Jay. Hey, you have a good evening. I'm going to keep the broadcast live. Come back when you can. Either way, say I can't stay or I can, and I'll go ahead and stop.